Let's talk about something that might just change how you think about fertility. We're going to ask a pretty big question today. What if the key to conception is hiding in a place you've never even thought to look? Let's dive right in. Seriously, just for a second, what's the very first thing that pops into your head? Because for most of us, the answer is usually a mix of really complex and, let's be honest, often stressful stuff. You're probably thinking about things like ovulation apps, obsessing over hormone levels, carefully timed intercourse, or maybe even heading down the road of medical procedures. And look, all of that is a totally valid part of the conversation. But what if we're overlooking something way more fundamental? Get this. When couples go see nutritionist Marie Bellin, they are ready to talk about hormones. Instead, she often kicks things off with this super simple, super direct question. It's a little jarring, right? But it cuts straight to the chase of what we're exploring today. Because that one question, it leads us right here to your hidden fertility powerhouse, the gut microbiome. And this is where things get really, really interesting. So what in the world is it? Well, put simply, it's this huge, bustling ecosystem of trillions of tiny bacteria living in your digestive tract. And I just love this analogy. Think of it as an internal garden that needs tending, because when that garden is healthy and flourishing, it does so much more than just digest your food. And that quote just says it all, doesn't it? Your gut is like this major behind-the-scenes manager, quietly pulling the strings on things that are absolutely critical for conception. So the real question is, how is it doing all this? Well, it really boils down to three main jobs. Your gut microbiome helps regulate your hormones, it helps reduce inflammation, and it supports your immune system. You can think of these as the three pillars for building a body that's ready for pregnancy. So let's dig into those first two, hormones and inflammation, because they are so closely linked. Okay, this is where the gut's influence becomes crystal clear. We're going to zoom in on two of the biggest players in the fertility game, estrogen and inflammation. Now check out this side-by-side comparison because it's pretty powerful. On the left, you've got a happy, balanced gut. It's producing the right enzymes to help your body process and get rid of any excess estrogen, keeping everything in harmony. But then look at the right side. An imbalanced gut really struggles with that job. So that extra estrogen can actually get reabsorbed back into your system, leading to something called estrogen dominance. And that can throw your whole cycle out of whack, making ovulation really unpredictable. But the trouble doesn't stop there. This whole hormonal imbalance often goes hand in hand with another sneaky problem, low-grade chronic inflammation. You can think of it like a little fire that's just constantly smoldering in the background. And that kind of fire is definitely not a friend to fertility. And why is that? Well, because that constant inflammation can directly mess with your reproductive system. It can hurt the quality of your eggs, it can create a hostile environment in the uterus right where an embryo needs to implant, and it can even confuse the signals your ovaries need to get from your hormones. Okay, so that's the science part. And I know it might sound a little intimidating, but here comes the best part of this whole story. You have way more control than you think. So let's get into the action plan. And this right here is the central message. We all know some parts of fertility are just out of our hands. But your gut health, that is not one of them. This is something you can start working on literally the minute this is over. So what does that actually look like? Well, it all comes down to 5 foundational gut-loving habits. Let's walk through them one by one. First up, fiber. You got to think of this stuff as fertilizer for your internal garden. The good bacteria in your gut just love it. They ferment it, and that process creates compounds that actually lower inflammation and help balance hormones. So start loading up on things like oats, leafy greens, and sweet potatoes. Next, let's bring in some reinforcements with fermented foods. So if fiber is feeding the good bacteria you already have, things like plain yogurt or kimchi are actually introducing new good bacteria into the mix. It's like planting new seeds in your garden. And you don't need to go crazy. Just a couple tablespoons most days can really make a difference. Okay, habit number 3 is so simple, but it's absolutely crucial. Hydration. Water is what helps move all that fiber through your system, which, by the way, helps prevent that constipation we talked about at the beginning. It also keeps the lining of your intestines healthy, which is a key defense against inflammation. Aiming for at least 2 liters a day is a great goal. Now, this one might surprise you. Those pesticide residues on unwashed fruits and veggies, they can actually harm the delicate ecosystem in your gut. So just taking that extra minute to wash your produce really well helps protect all those good bacteria from chemicals they don't like. And last but not least, remember that your gut and your brain are in constant communication. They have a direct line to each other. Chronic stress and not getting enough sleep can seriously disrupt that connection, and that impacts both your digestion and your hormone balance. Even something as simple as 10 minutes of meditation can start to make a real, measurable difference. So as we start to wrap up here, the main takeaway isn't about feeling overwhelmed. It's about recognizing the incredible power of small, consistent actions. And that's really the heart of it all. On a journey that can so often feel like it's full of uncertainty, focusing on your gut health puts some of that control right back in your hands. And that is an incredibly empowering feeling. These aren't huge, dramatic changes. They're gentle, consistent acts of taking care of yourself. Every single one is like a small deposit you're making, an investment in creating an internal environment where a pregnancy can thrive. So, I'll just leave you with this final thought. Your body is always communicating with itself. There is a constant conversation happening between your digestive system and your reproductive system. The only question is, are we listening? By paying attention to your gut, you're starting a whole new, much more supportive conversation with your body. And that could be the conversation that rewrites your fertility story.